So, Reina, thank you for joining me today. It's nice meeting
Thank you
you
for having me.
virtually. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So,
Okay.
as I mentioned to you and to those who are watching, I'm currently doing a spiritual visions project slash series where I want to get very spiritual perspectives from various people, whether in a religious community or spiritual community, and just kind of see where their ideas are, where their mindsets are in regards to their spiritual journeys. So just to start off, as I always start off, could you go into a little detail about, your spiritual or religious experiences growing up in your childhood?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I remember attending a Baptist church. So we were in a Baptist church, and then we moved into like a different kind of church. It was more of like a Protestant or maybe like non-denominational, all Christian background church. And then I kind of went off and searched a little deeper as far as God and like and religion and like what that meant to me, because I was following all these religious doctrines and like scripture and all of that, but how does that relate back to me, you know and I even jumped back well, I was actually baptized Catholic, and then we went to all these different like Christian churches, and then I went back into Catholicism. And so I also joined like different Catholic groups, charismatic Catholic groups, and that was quite an experience, simply because it was they focused on yes, they focused on the Word of God, but they also focused on your own personal relationship with
Mm,
God Himself, with higher being source, or whatever anybody truly like identifies with. And so in the end, I didn't I stopped going to Catholic church. I mainly started focusing on my personal relationship with God, because I don't necessarily like resonate with a lot of the scripture, and that's okay. And it's like the Bible is, to me, the Bible is like a guidebook, a handbook, if you will. And you know, its main root is in love. And if your religion is love, you can't really go wrong, because God is love. And if you act and speak and be from a place of love, only, yeah, you attract more love into your life. And so, um, especially when it comes to co-creating in the world, creating your reality, and coming from that space, and having that relationship with God and with yourself. And because we are all divine beings, we come from the divine, from God. We are an extension. So to act from places that yeah, that was my journey, and that was where I'm currently like operating from, and I don't think I'll ever change operating from that space of love.
uh, just to go deeper into that, how do you think, leaving the Catholic Church and, pretty much focusing on your own spiritual path, how do you think it affected some of your relationships in your life?
um it hasn't really affected um many relationships in my life, simply because the group of people that I found my friendships with in that charismatic Catholic group, they come from that. I feel like they were very already open to start off with. And maybe I won't go in depth in like manifestation and stuff with them, but like the relationship that we've created out of love is still there. So I think I pick and choose who I have certain conversations with, but for the most part, I don't think it's the relationship with people have changed. It's how I approach a relationship with somebody.
Yeah, that's good
If
to
if
hear.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I always ask that because I know from my personal experiences when I started going on that spiritual path, it's like
Hmm.
sometimes you lose certain friends or certain relationships along the way. But I think it's kind of good in your perspective that it kind of changes your approach and the way you talk to people, understand people, instead of like just walking the other way. It's just kind of seeing like how we can use our journeys in order to better relate to people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always here to listen. I'm open, and I respect where people have their opinions formed. Um, and I'm never here to force anything upon anyone. We're all learning, and we all learn at our own different paces. And when something hits for somebody, it hits. And so if they ask for stuff, if they ask for like advice or suggestion or my perspective, I'll give it to them. But other than that, where I will meet you at the same level. We are the same always.
So, another question that I usually ask is in terms of dieting. From my personal experience, my spiritual experience, when I first had my awakening, I started shedding like a lot of foods, just like taking out a lot of foods that I would normally eat and I would enjoy, whether it be processed or not. But, and I really felt that there was like this fullness within me to the point where I didn't really care about food. Of course, I ate, but it wasn't like, the 3 meals a day kind of thing, like the normal thing that, you're raised on.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know, like, from your perspective, like, how has dieting changed for you, or if it's remained the same, and how does it affect the spiritual journey in your view?
Yeah. Dieting. That's yeah, no, that's an interesting question. Um, for me, now that I'm like thinking about it, like as far as like a spiritual perspective, and to me, spirituality is just us being like beings. We're already like spiritual beings because we are from spirit. So like spiritually, I I noticed that I would I guess my eating patterns were different. Uh, like maybe I would eat less, or maybe sometimes I get so caught up in creating like certain content that like I forget to eat because I'm like so caught up. But also like after I'm done creating, I'm just so freaking hungry. Like I'll just eat. And I think when it comes to like eating, enjoy what you eat. Like I'm always grateful for like what I'm eating at the moment, or when my husband will cook me something, I'm like, damn babe, this is like the best ham sandwich you've ever made for me. He's like, it's turkey. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm just so it's I'm excited when I eat. I am grateful for when I eat. And when you also infuse your food with love, like you're nourishing your body with
Wow.
with love that you're giving this food. And they talk about like the different timelines, the past, the future, all of it is happening right now, right? And so maybe the chicken that laid the egg, when I like crack open an egg, I am so grateful for that egg. And when I'm like showing gratitude to that egg, I know the chicken that laid the egg feels that gratitude too. And same thing goes with like, if you're eating like beef or pork or like vegetables, like they feel it, and it infuses your food with love and energy. And it's a matter of eating what feels good to you. If you know you're going to eat something that's going to make you feel shitty like later on, respect that. Don't eat it, skip it,
Yeah.
but maybe you're craving it hardcore one day, honor that. Like it's just about following what feels good and being grateful for the nourishment it's providing.
It's so crazy that you said said that because in my previous interview, one of who was a close friend of mine, she's one of my closest friends, she echoed that same sentiment about energy being everything, especially like when making your food. Like
Mm-hmm.
for for me these days, I like to cook a lot, and that's something I thought I'd never say, but I really enjoy cooking a lot. But I also noticed like the taste of the food may depend on, like how I'm feeling as I'm cooking. Like saying I'm cooking and I'm trying a new recipe and I'm like really enjoying, creating the food, then that outcome, that taste is gonna be really good. Or if I'm like making food for a friend and I'm like doing like something out of love and I just want to share something with them, then that frequency, it like it transitions to that person. But say I'm not feeling well or I'm not really in the mood to cook, and then that kind of reflects in the food. And then sometimes I don't want to eat it because, I just felt like really bad and crappy while cooking it.
Yeah.
And it's just going forward, like with the energy piece, how kind of try to, you know, condense it. What do you Well, how do you feel that energy is very important? Like, why do you feel that way in your view? Like, say, for instance, I think energy is important because it kind of helps in the way that I interact with people around me. And
Hmm.
sometimes you can tell when someone's, either in a happy, upbeat mood or they're just feeling down, or maybe they're trying to present themselves in a way that, that they're not really feeling, and you tend to see it right through that. So, in your view, how is energy or the concept energy really shape the way that you
Oh
go about
man.
your
The concept of energy, it was like when you become consciously aware of how this world, you just being where you are, is shaped by energies that you can personally shift yourself. It's a it can be I think it was like interesting to like wrap my mind around it. So I started kind of doing like experiments, you know, setting an intention. That's energy. Um, like sitting on this couch and knowing how it's gonna make like me feel. That's energy. Like just like even like right now with like me and you, like there's an exchange of energy right now. And so um when I speak to people, I set the intention of how I would like it to go. um when I go eat at a restaurant, when we could eat at restaurants, I would have an intention of like um having like really good customer service, or just being met by like friendly people. And so I guess going back to your question, how has like the concept of energy like shaped me living from day to day, basically, is being intentional from moment to moment. Yes, I forget, but like when I'm aware of it, like if you can be have intentionality from moment to moment, like you are literally like creating your life from moment to moment. Like I mean, it's not easy. Like we're not always on all of the time, but if you can like practice, it just takes practice. It's like
Yeah.
going to like the energetic mindset gym and just like practicing. Like, maybe you'll start practicing setting an intention like when you wake up in the morning, like today is going to be a really good day. Or maybe you set an intention when you're cooking, like I'm going to cook an amazing meal. It's going to taste so good. It's going to nourish my body. Like even just practicing setting intentions for like moments, you know what I mean? And I think that's how energy has really shaped my reality from when I like started noticing it in, I want to say like maybe like two almost 3 years ago. So
Mm.
it's been fun. It's been really fun.
I think for me it's kind of like an adventure, you know,
Yes.
because sometimes you can just pick up on like, certain vibes or energies from different people. And it's not like, oh, I'm trying to judge someone, it's not like that. But sometimes you can, for instance, I'll meet a person or see a person and I feel like this very like lighthearted and loving energy. And then I will walk up and talk to them, and then like your that instinct is proven right when you talk to the person and you enjoy their company, and then you walk away feeling energized because that interaction that you have with that person. So I try to
Sounds
see it.
like, are you empathic? It sounds like
I
you're empathic.
I am.
Yeah, yeah,
And for me in my spiritual journey, I didn't know what an empath was. I didn't know what empath or starseed or anything like that
yeah.
was till like 3 years ago. But when I started reading up on it and studying it, and then I was especially fortunate when I was in college, I decided, okay, I want to do on-campus counseling, you know, because I
Amazing.
was like really overwhelmed and like dealing with anxiety and depression at the time. So I was just like, okay, let's do this, and maybe they'll help you get a grasp on things. And my counselor, she was so sweet. She was an empath,
Oh,
and she was like, "Yeah, what you're telling me, you meet all like you like check off every box of like what an empath is." And that's what I was introduced to pretty much all the things that I know now was through my counseling sessions on campus. And the more I studied on it, and then that's when I really started watching the way I interacted with people. At first, it was kind of like I was walking on eggshells because you kind of don't want to hurt yourself, or I felt like
mm-hmm.
I didn't want to like hurt myself or get myself in kind of like a potentially harmful situation. But now, like I see it as more as like an adventure, and you wound up
Love it.
forming new relationships, meeting new people. So that's the one thing that I enjoy about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Beautiful.
Yeah. So moving to my next question. Um, so one thing that I somewhat notice, especially when it comes to like spirituality, is kind of like the impact that social media tends to have on it sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to kind of like the appropriation of certain like spiritual practices. And in my last interview that I did with my close friend, she's Afro Indigenous, and she kind of expressed like issues with certain folks using particular, I guess, like sage, like white sage, for instance. She has
Mm-hmm.
said there are issues with like people of other cultures who weren't indigenous or weren't Native American, like using these certain tools or instruments, spiritual tools, for their own like spirituality. And she had mentioned, that's kind of not okay because for what she told me, especially about white sage, like it's very scarce right now and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
hard to even grasp it. So I guess my question for you is was like what would be like your thought process behind like the appropriation of certain like spiritual, I guess spiritual techniques. I'm trying to find a better word, but that's the best word I could come up with. Like what would be like your take on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm gonna come out and say personally, I have sage. Um, it was gifted to me, and before it was even gifted to me, I also had like, I also bought like white sage, and you know, it all starts with like, oh, sage, like it cleanses the energy, it like, gets rid of the negative energy, and it's been mainstream,
Uh-huh.
it's been modernized, it's been like a household thing now, and so with that, yes, maybe I've jumped on the bandwagon of that, but as I grow, like when when you grow, growth, curiosity and growth go together. Like growth and learning go together. And
Mhm.
so I think, as somebody on a spiritual path that's also utilizing these tools, um, we have to also like educate ourselves and do research, you know, and for the people that do know better, thank the Lord that they know better, they can educate us. I think it's important for, yes, those people who know better, like to share their wisdom and to also offer us like solutions and alternatives. And the people who are definitely in line in honoring like these different spiritual practices, will align, will respect, we are open to learn, and integrate these practices more respectfully, and with with more consciousness,
Mm.
yeah, because I respect it all, but yeah, like if I need to come correct, I am very much open to being schooled.
Yeah, I am too, and I know like in the earlier stages of like my spiritual journey, I had like the sage and the white sage stuff too, and the more I learned, I was just like, okay, maybe I shouldn't implement this into my own spiritual practice, and like just kind of like seeing like what works mm, from that standpoint. So it is good to like be educated and being, going back to that, being aware, consciously aware of what you're doing and, you know, how you're implementing it into your practice. I think is really important. Because the last thing you want to do is, is be disrespectful or come off as disrespectful to one's like culture or, spiritual practices, especially when you didn't mean to, you didn't mean any harm behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I'm also just grateful for, being introduced to these like amazing these tools, and I also want to come from a place of respect and honoring, the origins of it all. So
Yeah. But so I'm kind of getting a little bit into astrology a bit.
okay.
I did like my whole natal chart and I'm like currently analyzing it right now. But I'm beginning to notice there's kind of like a different understanding of astrology, especially from the Western point of view, in contrast to the Eastern point of view. So I wanted to know, your take on astrology, if you're into it, or if you study it, and yeah, basically how you try to apply it to your daily life.
Um, so astrology, I am not an in-depth person with astrology. I'm not an expert, and but I actually am starting to get into it a little more, simply because I work with my coach, and she integrates my natal chart and everything when we talk and when we meet, and I'm just like, oh damn, this is like very on point. And so I started to just dive a little deeper in my own personal natal chart, looking at the houses and like the signs and the planets, and it's very helpful. I use it as a reference as to how I'm operating from a certain aspect of life, because you have like your 12 houses, and like whatever sign or planet it's in, it kind of gives you like an overview of like how you potentially think and how you show up. And when I do read it, some of it resonates, some of it doesn't. And in life, when you're learning, take what resonates with you at the moment, leave what doesn't work. And so it's been a helpful guide. It's like, oh, okay, I see myself doing this. How can I take that to the next level and make that aspect work for me? So I use astrology as a reference, and I don't believe the whole, oh, I'm a Libra, that's why I did it. Hold
Yeah.
yourself accountable, people. It is not the astrology, it's not the stars or the planets that make you do what you do. You are always in charge.
Yeah, and it's so funny you
FYI.
say that. That's like my biggest pet peeve. I think it's like every other day. I don't use social media frequently. I use
Yes.
it, you know, intentionally. I try not to use it every day, but when I do go on, I see at least one post that echoes what you just said. Like I am, insert your sun sign here. That's why I do A, B, and C. I'm just like, no, you probably do crappy stuff because you were being a crappy person at that time. Let's hold yourself accountable.
Yes, yes. You are always in control. Always. There's always choices.
And I guess I can ask you this. Well, when were you introduced to, the concepts of law of attraction and, manifestations?
When
And
was I introduced?
yeah.
I want to say I was introduced. Okay, so first of all, I didn't really know about it, but I also noticed at the time my husband, he's like a really good like manifester. Like he calls in like specific things. I'm just like, how the heck do you do that? And then I started like looking into more of like manifestation, law of attraction. And I think that was like around 2016. And so yeah, that's where it all began. And then I hired a life coach at the time because I wanted more out of life. I wanted to know more about this stuff, and she was a manifestation coach. My first life coach was a manifestation coach, and changed my life. Really, truly changed my life.
Yeah. I'm like still dabbling into that, but
Hmm.
there have been cases where I did like manifest certain things, but I
Yeah,
didn't realize it until like after the fact. So
yeah.
it's crazy. So for instance, I think a lot of my manifestations, like I get premonitions of it through dreams. I'm a very vivid
Hmm.
dreamer. So
Amazing.
so I had a very vivid dream about me sitting in like a classroom and I didn't know what the class was about. This was last year. And then I think a couple weeks after that, my supervisor at the time, she says, we're going to help you, enhance your photography skills because I'm a photographer also. So they paid for me to take a photography class.
Amazing.
And the crazy thing is, like the makeup of the classroom that I dreamed about, it was quite similar to my dream. So it was like brick walls. The classroom had brick walls, and I walked in the classroom and it had brick walls. And
Oh my God.
that's what happened. I was like, oh, holy crap, this really happened. And since then I have like a little like manifestation, especially when it comes to money.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I budget, so I like check my spending and whatnot. And I like to do the addition myself before I go on my bank account and check. So when I go on my bank account confirm, sometimes I will have like more money like laying around. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, did I calculate it right? And then I'll go back, I'll recalculate it. I was like, yeah, I did, but my bank account says I have more money than what I calculated. So
Awesome.
that's happened a few times this year alone.
That is so good. I love it. You are a manifesting mama. Let's go.
Yeah, working on it. It's kind of fun. It's
It
just,
is fun, especially when you get what you want.
yeah. So I guess to wrap things up, I
Mm.
like for my visitors to send people off with a message of encouragement. And I added this piece on, especially during this time when there's just a lot of uncertainty going on around us. And I feel like a lot of us are overwhelmed, maybe energy wise, or maybe, they're being directly affected by like, the pandemic or just any other situations that are going on in their lives. So if you could send people off with a very encouraging message, that would be nice.
Oh my God, absolutely. I would want to say that presently, like no matter like what is going on right now, like inside of you, outside of you. If you choose to, you can shift it very quickly. You just need to decide inside, what do you want? Focus on what you want, and you will be led to your next steps to get you there, because you get what you focus on, and what you focus on expands. So you can either focus on the problem, or you can focus on finding a solution. And when you can look outside of the problem, you will be shown an abundance of solutions. You just have to choose to look anywhere else other than your presenting problem. And in addition to that, like when you can like shift your thought, when you can shift your focus, you shift your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can shift your energy is your point of attraction. Cue law of attraction. So you're not stuck. You're never stuck. Just move. Just move outside of what's causing you the angst, or focus on something else that is better than that at the moment.
That's a great way to cap off our fun chat. I just really want to say thank you for joining me, and it's really nice to meet you for the first time.
Yeah, Kiana, no, this was so great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to like connect with you and to connect with your viewers. So
I know. Yeah, I think they're gonna really enjoy, our chat and the things that you have to say, and resonate with it. So thank you for taking part in my expanding of my channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you are doing such a great service of reaching so many people who need to hear what they need to hear. So you are a light, my love, a tool, a beautiful divine tool, and so grateful for you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right. Wishing you the best of luck with everything, girlfriend.
You too. Bye, Reihna.
Bye, Kiana.